is my pleasure to welcome Andrea Crosta of the Elephant Action League. And for example, how has your work benefited elephants?
Well, first of all, back in the days, 6-7 years ago, I, together with a colleague, I did the very first investigation on the links between ivory and the Somali terrorist group Al-Shabaab. That was, we single-handedly changed the conversation about elephant poaching. We got a lot of hostility from some big organization who didn't believe our job, our work, because these two guys, self-funded, out of nowhere, in Kenya, investigating for 18 months how basically Al-Shabaab was buying ivory. But when we published the report, then everyone started talking about it, Senator Kerry, Hillary Clinton, everyone was talking about that, without crediting us, of course. But so that was the first thing. And then we did in China, probably the most important undercover investigation on ivory illegal trade 2 years ago, that ended up in this big documentary, The Ivory Game. And during the Ivory Game, I called the Chinese president publicly, asking him to ban the market of legal ivory in China as the only thing that can save elephants, because this legal market has been used to launder huge quantities of illegal ivory for a long time. And they did it, not only because of us, but I think we gave a big push because it was a very important documentary.
When did you found the Elephant Action League?
I founded it 5 years ago, actually here in Los Angeles, when I basically decided to leave my previous career in technology and security, investigation and intelligence. We, in Elephant Action League, we started this with putting intelligence at the heart of everything we do, because if you look at other global threats, terrorism, narco-trafficking, organized crimes, weapons of mass destruction, intelligence is pretty much at the heart of what you do to fight back. We can debate, sometimes it's wrong intelligence or bad intelligence, but if you take away intelligence from the fight against terrorism, for example, it gets really difficult to fight back.
And one of the problems also is there's a lot of competition amongst groups that are getting involved in it, and really the strength of the movement has to be in diversity and working together.
It's I think part of the, if we're failing collectively in something, isn't that in the failure to work a little bit better together.
Actually, there's an interesting connection between elephants and whales. The Zulu have a legend that in Hermanus in South Africa, that every year the elephants would come down to the beach at the same time that the southern right whales were at the beach, and for days on end would be communicating back and forth. The elephants talking to the whales, the whales talking to the elephants. Of course, that doesn't happen anymore, but it's a very ingrained in the Zulu tradition that happened.
Yeah, I think elephants and whales really, I think, are the symbols of what we are trying to do.
And they both have sonar.
And they both have sonar. They actually share a lot of characteristics. Yeah.
Well, to go back with elephant, in 1978 I spent 6 months in Kenya working on tracking elephant poachers. It was Sir Anthony Billison's bill to ban ivory into the U.S., and that was that long ago. And we found plenty of evidence, and the BBC did a big report that year on the fact that the ivory was being stored in warehouses owned by Mama Ngina Kenyatta, it was moved by trucks owned by Margaret Kenyatta, and once that information was made, then everybody had to just get out of Kenya, because it just became very dangerous. I mean, we got arrested for taking pictures, and it was and threatened. So but nothing. I remember at the time saying, if we don't do something, we're going to lose 30% of our elephant population in East Africa within 20 years. And I remember I was writing for Defenders of Wildlife magazine at the time. They said, no, we can't put that in. That's an outrageous prediction. You can't put that in. It turned out it was 60%.
Exactly. I got actually really inspired by Sea Shepherd, because you can see that it's possible to change what happened in the field. It is possible by being in the field and doing certain things. And I said, okay, I want to do the same, but intelligence driven. Our work is more on land, and we use, of course, former intelligence officers who run network of sources around the globe.
Now, you do a lot of covert work, though, do you?
A lot, like I think 80–90% of our work is completely covert, yes.
And how do you get public support, or to support this, if you're doing a lot of this covert work? It's not something that you can actually advertise a lot. And,
that's probably this is our biggest challenge, because we cannot say what we are doing until we're finished, at least. and very often not even then. Actually, there are a bunch of countries, for example, in Africa, where we have been working for already 3 years now, with good results, meaning arrest of poachers and traffickers, and only the donors know the truth. We cannot tell the public, we cannot even tell which countries are, because they're very difficult countries, dangerous countries. You can get, it will be a danger for our assets on the ground. In other cases, like Thailand, for example, we developed great relation with local law enforcement authorities, and then we can say, okay, we work together with them and we can make a difference. But it's very, very tricky when you cannot say what you're doing actually.
Many people are surprised because when we talk about our work with China, they're surprised that the Chinese are more cooperative than people think they should be or would be. Do you find that that's true?
Absolutely true. The important, first of all, if we want to save the planet, we need to learn how to work with the Chinese. Mm-hmm. Without them, it's lost. We can all go home. So we need to find a way to work with the Chinese. We have different cultures, different values. You cannot always talk in terms of, this species or this piece of land or this animal has the right to live. Like, I think that's why I'm fighting for. With Chinese, usually we talk in terms of laws. Okay, so these are criminals, are breaking the law, your laws, and so you have to take action. And if you share information, they are usually pretty assertive. More than many other countries that I know, because they don't like breaking the law, they don't like corruption, they don't like this kind of stuff. We share a lot of information on rhino trafficking, for example. We'll be sharing a lot of information also on the trafficking of totoaba, for example.
One of the things that always concern me about with elephants and rhinos is, why don't we just sedate them and cut off the tusks, cut off the horns? Is there a reason why we can't do that?
Many reasons. First of all, elephants need the tusk. Mm. They need to to eat. They eat borage and they under the soil, so they need the tusk. But in general, anything that would fuel the demand is wrong. So right. the name of the game is to kill the demand and make it illegal forever. Let's not forget that all these products, ivory, rhino, and pangolins, and even totoaba, they go to the largest market on the planet. If you put together China and Southeast Asia, we're talking about 2 billion people. So there is nothing sustainable for 2 billion people. It's not enough, all the ivory is still attached to live elephants to cover the demand. Right. So you just want to you don't want to fuel the demand with giving them legal products. You want to do the opposite.
Well, one of the problems, of course, I call the economics of extinction, is that if you diminish a species, then the price of what they want goes up higher. So fewer elephants, the higher price on the ivory.
Yes.
So
and this is exactly what happened in the past years. But for example, when at the beginning of this year, the Chinese government finally closed down the legal ivory market in China. It was probably the most important decision for elephant in the past decades. The price of ivory immediately fell. Really? And now is less than half than last year, because it became all of a sudden really illegal. If you want to trade in ivory, you have to go underground. They are doing it, but it became so difficult that the price fell. And we are hoping now to see the effects back to Africa, a decrease in poaching.
So ivory is not getting into China anymore?
Less. But this year, 2018, will be super important to monitor exactly that, to see if this decision of closing down the legal market will have an impact, like ripple effects back to Africa. So we have to see less poaching. If we will not see that, then it's a problem. That means that it entirely went underground, the market, and then we have another problem, of course. It's up to the Chinese government to enforce.
And when did the vaquita get on your radar?
We did the first mission to China because, first of all, we wanted to understand at the end of the supply chain what happens to this totoaba, because the totoaba is the vaquita is the bycatch in the gill nets for fishing totoaba. So we are trying now to understand, first of all, who does what and who are the main traffickers of totoaba, because they are those who put a lot of money into new nets.
Well, we've taken over 5,000 meters of nets out of the Gulf. That's more than the height of Mount Everest.
Exactly, and it's imagine the money to put them in.
Right now, according to the evidence that we have, there may be as few as 10 vaquita left. One of my concerns was with this campaign to capture and keep them was that that would remove the pressure to protect if they had them there, and therefore the totoaba would be overly exploited right away.
Right away, and the rest actually.
And not many people really seem to care for the totoaba.
No, you're right.
As, vaquita.
You're right. You're right. It's totoaba, and you know they have this release of totoaba. You know, once or twice a year they release new totoabas, and that's also weird because it's like giving more totoaba. You do it to conserve totoaba, but you also in this way you're giving more totoaba to the traffickers. So there is more incentive to put more nets, of course, because there's plenty of totoaba. They think there's not.
Well, that's always been the problem with conservation overall, is people care about pretty animals, or you know, ones, you know, but not the smaller animals, the ones that people don't know about. Actually, the more important species in many ways, because they maintain the you know, the foundation for the entire ecosystem. So it is extremely frustrating.
Yeah, it's our work, I think, to bring as much awareness as possible about the whole area, not just totoaba and vaquita.
But we can't give up on an endangered species.
No.
As long as there's an opportunity to actually save them.
Absolutely. And as I always say, it's not just about the fate of the vaquita. I mean, it's we owe the vaquita to tell the whole story. And even if, God forbid, the vaquita will get extinct, it's a story that needs to be told, because it's a symbol of the whole Baja California.
What do you think the future is for the vaquita and the totoaba?
From the field, I mean, it looks like a difficult future right now, because again, there's you know, there are maybe 10, 12 left in the whole refugee of the vaquita. We don't know if they will survive the next illegal fishing season, high season of totoaba. As long as they are there, we will be there. My fear is that if the vaquita will be gone, they will completely destroy the Baja California, because this, you know, the symbol you will not have this strong symbol anymore, and they will feel free to put more nets and destroy everything. So we have, both of our organization, I think, have plenty of reason to stay there as long as possible, forever, because it's an aquarium of the world, and you have to be there.
And do you think the Mexican government is doing everything they can?
I don't. Well, first of all, there is always room for improvement on anything. So I think also there is room for improvement. I think the major challenge that I saw with my own eyes, is that the Mexican government wants to stop the poaching, wants to stop the poachers, but they don't want to use violence. You know, they just want to keep them away from the nets. They try to arrest them, but it's very difficult because very often they escape in shallow waters. So it's a difficult situation to solve. You know, I think they should start work also inland, because these fishermen leave from certain bases, and some of these bases are known actually. So they should also start working onshore.
That's true.
It's so easy to focus on poachers and consider poachers the villain, you know, just because they physically kill the animal. But sometimes they are exploited as well by very, very wise and professional traffickers and businessmen who use poverty at the end of the day to destroy everything and to make profits. And the shift that I ask everyone to do is exactly that. Try to shift away a little bit from the poachers and focus on the traffickers, who very often are businessmen who have been working in a very comfortable way for decades, trafficking everything, and they are the enablers and the drivers of the whole thing.
Same attention to wildlife trade as we did to drugs, for instance, we'd be much further ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why actually we in Elephant Action League we started this you know, with putting intelligence at the heart of everything we do, because if you look at other global threats, terrorism, narco-trafficking, organized crimes, weapons of mass destruction, intelligence is pretty much at the heart of what you do to fight back. We can debate, sometimes it's wrong intelligence or bad intelligence, but if you take away intelligence from the fight against terrorism, for example, it gets really, really difficult to fight back. There's no such a thing for environmental crime. There is no real intelligence on the planet, and I think the planet needs serious intelligence work.
And Jacques Cousteau once called the Gulf of California the world's aquarium because of the incredible diversity of species there. And we're finding a lot of that diversity in these nets, not just the totoaba, not just...
No, exactly. It's they're destroying the whole Gulf, and the vaquita is a bit, I think it's a symbol of what is happening there, of course.
Well, thank you for this conversation. And,
my pleasure.
It's very informative, and I think that you know, the world really needs to know just how effective your campaigns are.
Thank you very much.